What if death isn't goodbye, but hello? Today, we're diving into a conversation that challenges everything we think we know about connection, energy, and the unseen threads that bind us. My guest, evidential medium and author Travis Holp, joins me to talk about healing, intuition, and the moments that remind us we're never really alone. Whether you believe in spirit or simply believe in love, this episode will expand how you see life, death, and everything in between. Welcome to Make It a Great One with Dr. Dan. I'm Dan Peters, psychologist and leadership coach. This show is all about bringing hope, connection, awareness, and wisdom through meaningful conversations that inspire us to be better versions of ourselves and have a positive impact on humanity. This is your space to pause, reflect, and reconnect with who you are, what you care about, and who you want to be. We have this moment, this day, and this life. Let's make it a great one. I have been so looking forward to today's conversation with our guest, Travis Holp. Travis is an evidential medium and spiritual guide dedicated to helping people unlock clarity, healing, and connection in every area of their lives. Whether it's delivering evidential messages from departed loved ones, offering profound spiritual insights, or guiding clients to align with their higher path, his work is about creating transformation and empowerment at every level. Travis has had the honor of working with thousands of people worldwide, from intimate one-to-one sessions to live events in packed theaters. His work is featured in Us Weekly, Entertainment Tonight, Today.com, Cosmopolitan, and Good Day New York. And he is the author of his brand new book, Are You There, Spirit? It's Me, Travis. Through his writing, teaching, and live events, he hopes to inspire even more people to reconnect with their inner wisdom and embrace the life they were meant to live. Born in Dayton, Ohio, he now resides and is coming to us from Tacoma, Washington. Travis, welcome to the show.
Oh, thanks for having me, Dr. Dan. How are you?
I am very well, thank you. And one point of intersection that took me back several years is I spent a year for my psychology internship in Dayton, Ohio.
Oh my
and
gosh.
and lived in a town near you. You said you grew up in a town near. I lived in Fairborn, so I was wondering what part of the area did you grow up in?
Yes, I was actually south of Fairborn in a town called Miamisburg, is where my family is from. My grandpa owned a pizza restaurant there that's pretty popular in town called Ron's Pizza. I don't know if you've heard of it, but it was
Papa, that's Papa, right?
yep, exactly,
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, that's where I grew up.
awesome. Congratulations. I know that this book, among other things, was a childhood dream of yours and is now a reality.
Yeah, I crazy synchronicity with the book was that, when I was working with my book agent and we were pitching it to publishers, the same week, my mom sent me this manila envelope. My mom like keeps like documents and all of that. And she calls me and she's like, "Oh, I'm sending you something that I found," because they were moving at the time. And she sends me these manila envelopes, and it was manuscripts of books I wrote when I was 11. And on the top of the manuscript was like a letter that to publishers. It was like, "Hi, my name is," I went by Ty when I was like 11. And I was like, "Hi, my name is Ty Holp. Will you please publish my book?" It was like the most sweetest thing. And so I brought that with me to the publisher meetings. And I was like, the publisher that thinks this is really cool, this is who I'm going with. And so the publisher that I ended up going with, they thought it was really great. So it was a fun synchronistic moment, which was really fun.
Well, I think we'll get to this. I want to get to this, but
Yeah.
manifestation is one of the things that you write and speak about. And what a little piece of manifestation right there, putting out to the universe when you were 11 years old and
Yeah.
taking, as we say, aligned action
Yeah.
towards that goal. And here it is all these years later, it's happened.
Yeah, it was so fun, and, like, it was really sweet, and it was really just so heartwarming to have that, and I still have the letter. I'm gonna frame it and put it up somewhere, but it was really great to see.
I know you get asked this a lot.
Yeah.
Um, when when was the first time that you felt that you were getting messages or had access to something that, on the one hand, maybe didn't feel odd at all because it was you, and on the
Mhm.
other hand, you started to realize, well, maybe this is different than what other people experience?
Yeah, I equate this to being gay. Like, I didn't know I was different until one day where I was like, "Oh, not everybody feels this way. Okay, got it." Um, because it's always just been a part of me. When I was a when I was a kid, when I was about, 5 or 6, my granny and I, we would use the Ouija board, and this is usually where people groan, right? But we would use the Ouija board and we would communicate with spirits. And as a kid, I just thought that was like normal. I thought everybody did that with their grandparents. Then I go to school and kids are like, "What do you mean?" And so that's kind of one of my first memories of that. But I always had a vivid imagination. I always had imaginary friends that I could see and talk to. And it wasn't until I was a little bit older when I kind of realized, oh, this isn't just imagination. It's a deeper connection. I think my first mediumistic experience though was probably when I was a little bit older. And I used to drink. I quit drinking 5 years ago. And people say, "Oh, were you a bad drinker?" No, I was really good at it. I just had to quit early. And so, so when I would drink, I would read my friends' tarot cards. And like some people just like kiss their friends when they're drunk. I'm connecting with their dead relatives. And I described a friend of mine's departed relative. I had no idea who it was, and I described everything about them and delivered a message. And I was so drunk. I barely remember it, but I woke up the next day and she calls me and she goes, "Do you remember what you said to me last night?" I was like, "Oh God, I hope it wasn't something embarrassing." But it was just really just describing her departed loved one.
Hmm.
And that's the first time that I kind of recognized, okay, this is something that isn't within the realm of common, we'll
Hmm.
say.
Hmm. Um, I do know something that you said about the drinking in the book
Yeah.
was, and it talks about, we had a recent episode on addiction,
Yeah.
and it's so multifaceted, substance abuse or addiction, because you were talking about that it's it, you were just you were numb. You felt like you didn't have I know the joke, like you didn't have a drinking problem. You were very good at it, but
Yeah.
you were the point of it was you were numbing, among other things, these feelings, these sensations, this antenna, the radio signal, as you call it, was part of the drinking.
Yeah. I've always felt things really, really big. I've always
Hmm.
had very big emotions, whether it be, feeling deep grief or feeling intense joy. And I've felt emotions just all through my body my entire life. And for me, drinking was just kind of a way to numb that, but it was also a way for me to also numb the feeling of loneliness, because loneliness is something that I remember experiencing ever since I was a kid. I've always kind of had this like lonely feeling that creeps up. And so for me, drinking was a way to escape that and turn that down. Now, the thing with drinking though is that it's only a temporary solution, right? When you
Hmm.
sober up, not only do you have a headache, but that feeling is there and it's even bigger than it was before you started the drinking.
Hmm.
So for me, when I decided to give up alcohol, it was after a 3-day bender, and I woke up on the floor of my apartment and I heard this voice that said, "Travis, if you keep drinking, you're going to die." And I said, "Well, then what what do I do?" And then I heard the words meditate. And so I started meditating. And that's kind of when all of these things started to kind of amplify. So like, my dreams got even crazier and I could like feel things again. And I would get these senses. And I was working in the beauty industry at the time. This work and me doing this wasn't even on my radar when that happened.
Now, this is only 5 years ago, and I say this. I know 5 years is a long time, but also what you've accomplished and how you've grown in so many different ways is quite
Yeah.
astonishing once you accepted this and leaned into it.
Yeah, you're right. It's 5 years is not that long. it sounds like it, but it's really not, and especially everything that's come up, and, some of that I think was definitely my sobriety, but some of it was also my willingness to surrender, and, I my higher power I call God or creator, sometimes Tina Turner, depending on the day, but, but for me, surrendering over and allowing that force, that energy to move through me
Hmm.
and not try to numb it and run from it. And I think that was another thing that, that the loneliness was um was a part of was not connecting
Hmm.
to that greater force outside of
Hmm.
myself.
Um, I find it serendipitous, which is something you talk about a lot, that you just mentioned force, because something I was thinking about is obviously this topic is a topic that is, for some, mediumship, psychic mediumship. For some, it's a way of life and just the way they live their life and they really believe. And for others, um, it's very, it just doesn't seem real. It doesn't seem
Mhm,
something that is scientific or accepted,
mhm,
and there are people all the way in between. So I
mhm,
like how you start the book and talking about there's a lot of different names that people use to talk about the other side. There's God,
mhm.
there's spirit, there's universe. Um, and what I immediately thought of is taking me back to my childhood and still where I'm at when it comes to Star Wars is the Force.
Yeah.
And when I think back in the day when Obi-Wan Kenobi was talking to Luke and explaining what the Force is that binds us, and as we learned through those movies, you can tell where my head is in the Star Wars place, is you see that those characters come in and out of the dimensions and they're always with them and guiding the Jedi. And so I was just threw that out as like the force is to me another way that I wonder if people can understand if they relate to that concept of how you see what this interplay is with this energy and this frequency.
Yeah. I do a lot of live events and I do a lot of live shows and I get all kinds of folks that come, some who are just like so deep in belief and then some who are like, their wives drug them there and they were like, what the hell am I doing at this show with this medium? And I prep the show by telling people, I don't care what you believe in. Believe in God, you can believe in, nature, believe in nothing. I mean, whatever. The way that I kind of equate what I do is that, we are energy before we come into this body. We are energy in this body and we are energy when we leave this body. And so mediums or psychics or healers or shamans or whatever, we're just tapping into energy. That's all it is. We're just tapping into energy that we may not be able to feel or see with our physical senses, but like I can't see the Wi-Fi signal, but I know it's there. You know what I mean? So that's kind of how I like to explain things. And I kind of equate it to being a radio where, we're just tuning our frequency to something that's a little bit different than what we're typically tuned to. And that typically kind of helps people kind of
Hmm.
understand a little bit more of what this is.
Hmm. And it's understandable. I mean, I understand the skeptical point of view.
Mhm.
Um, uh, um, I want to say, just generally speaking, I understand the skeptical point of view, which is it's something that, depending on how one is raised, it's it's a whole new way of thinking about our existence, right?
Yeah.
About our this 3D dimensional life and what happens after, and depending on what religion you might be raised with, this happens when you go. Or those who are more of the atheist point of view, it's like, no, this is it, and then you're gone. And then so this notion that there can be communication from um, loved ones who are gone, and as you say, they've died, but they're not dead. They've died in this plane,
Right.
um,
Yeah.
or that one's higher self, or these other ways of knowledge. Um, so I want to acknowledge the skepticism that people have, and also see this as an opportunity for us to expand and think about our existence and permanence and lack thereof and infinity and all of these concepts, which are really hard for our human minds to make sense of a lot of the time.
Yeah, our brain kind of melts when we think about it,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And for me in the work that I do, I think we're all skeptical. I think I'm skeptical. I think that's just healthy. I don't think there's anything wrong with being skeptical. When we start to delve into cynicism,
Mm,
that closes off our energy. That keeps us from being able to you know, experience things that could be otherwise mystical.
hmm
But I think for me in the work that I do, my work isn't about proving myself or proving that what I do is real. My job simply is to deliver messages and validation for other people that their loved ones are with them.
hmm hmm And I also find it interesting as your description of the experience for you as someone who is a highly sensitive feeler,
Yeah.
that you are with people who are in a lot of pain, a
Yeah.
lot of grief, particularly in the one-to-ones. I know when it's a group format, there's different dynamics at play, but
Mhm.
particularly in those one-to-ones. And in your work as that radio frequency, you actually are neutral
Yeah.
in delivering the message of the other, which I find that because it's you, but that is not how you operate in real time when you're not doing this.
Correct. Yeah, like, when I'm receiving from a spirit communicator, and even if the person is in front of me and they're in deep grief, the thing is that about this work is that the grief is important, and so someone being in grief is a very appropriate thing, especially if they miss a departed loved one, right? So, I think, so for me, that's not uncomfortable. I don't carry the burden of that. I don't it doesn't weigh on me. I see the value in feeling the grief. But when I'm, call it hooked in, so to speak, and I'm connected to a loved one, I'm in a more of a receptive state to where I'm seeing, I'm hearing, I'm feeling, and then I'm delivering. And so you're right, I am in a bit more of that neutral state, but I'm also in this place of where spirit is imprinting things on my senses. So like I'll see things, I'll hear things, I'll feel things, and I think, you're therapist and you coach people, you understand, right? I can um we can't both be in the weeds. One of us
Right,
has to
right,
be
right,
seeing the higher perspective, right?
right, right.
And spoiler alert, it's the practitioner.
Yes.
So, but I think it's such a beautiful thing as well. And I think, grief, especially grief, is a gorgeous thing. It's not fun to go through, but grief is just that proof of how much love we have for that person.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I think those states of grief, again, not comfortable, super
Mhm.
painful,
Mhm.
but also can be beneficial or really beautiful.
There's one chapter or a section, perhaps in the chapter where it's like it's not goodbye, it's hello.
Yeah.
And that was really enlightening for me in that thinking of it that way. I had a tremendous fear of death from childhood. Gosh, I don't know when it finally waned, but it was something that was present with me, something that like I
Mm,
tried to push aside and it would, I could, and then it would come back. And I even remember reading, I think in graduate school, I read all of Kubler Ross's Stages of Dying. I read the Tibetan Book of the Dead. Like I was trying to figure this thing out because of this fear.
mm,
Um, the thing that finally set me free at that point was one night I was lying in bed and I had this thought: if every human has had to deal with death, existence and non existence since the beginning of time, I can handle it too. And it was
oh,
something that just kind of poof. But all this is to say is to lead up as I have grown in life and spirituality, the idea of death being sadness and grief, but not gone.
mhm,
Like there's something that is really expansive in how you phrase that and
Yeah.
see that from the work that you do.
Yeah. I think, for me and just in the way that I work with spirit and the way that I communicate messages and the part that you're referencing was actually that came from a reading where uh, this gal had lost her father had departed and um it was just this reminder that came through during the reading. She was like, I just don't want to say goodbye. And the dad was just pretty much like, no, it's just a constant stream of hellos. Every time you see that sign or that symbol or those things that pop up, it's just that reminder. And during that time, one of my dear friends had actually passed away as well. And you know, even though I do this work and I know what I know and I believe what I believe, I'm not immune to grief either. And that morning, I was making breakfast like I normally do after the gym, and my iPhone started playing the song "Separate Ways" by Journey randomly. Well, my friend who had departed, we would go to karaoke, and I would beg her to sing that song for me. And so this song starts playing on my phone random, like the phone is like all the way across the kitchen, and so that just kind of was like that reminder even for me of like, oh, the signs, the symbols, the connection.
Mhm.
It's not goodbye because if we're receiving these things, then there's no way we can say goodbye if we're still having communication, right? It'd be
Mhm.
like if I kept telling you goodbye, then I just keep talking. You know what I mean? So it is that constant stream of hellos, but I think it can be tough sometimes for folks to balance that and the grief.
Mhm.
And I think it's that holding those 2 energies kind of at the same time and feeling like they can both be true. I can be grieving my loved one, and I can also know that they're not gone, and kind of playing that game back and forth with it. And I think that what is so beautiful about mediumship and working with the other side in this way is that, you know, that they're not dead, right? I call them dead because
Mhm.
it's fun. But really, they're more alive than they've ever been,
Mhm.
and
Mm.
that our physical departure is just it's a doorway to more life.
And to me, that's an expansive way
Yeah.
of thinking about our existence and thinking about our universe, and it opens up
Yeah.
possibilities and hope and hope. I had a former client you're reminding me of,
Mhm,
and she lost her best friend soulmate, like childhood and adulthood best friend
mm,
soulmate, and they were in theater together. And then they kept that love of theater, and it was what a lot of what they talked about and what they did together. And she unfortunately passed away of cancer.
mhm.
And shortly thereafter, she's driving down the road and she turns on the radio, and the song of the play that they were in together and that they always sing that is never on the radio
Yep.
came on. And then it came on several other times. Um, and of course, in this conversation, we can imagine what that was, the message.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely, and I think that's so beautiful. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah. You've been on a path, my friend. You have been on a path of growth, of um, healing, of becoming. And I want to celebrate that. I was like cheering with you and for you as I was reading the book and as you were
Oh,
being so vulnerable, and just how how your life has evolved in ways through the work, through accepting who you authentically are, and the scariness of doing that, and how with each step it doesn't come with just great ease, but with looking that scary thing in the face and taking a step towards where you were guided and where I believe your own intuition would take you. This I think this interaction of you and your guidance, having the courage to step forward, how everything kept and keeps emerging from this path.
Yeah, well, thank you for that. I mean, I'm healed now, so no, I'm kidding.
Yeah,
I'm
you're
all
done.
done. My
You're
work
done.
is done. I'm
Yeah.
perfect. No, thank you. But when I kind of first decided that I was going to release the things that were holding me back from the life that I truly wanted to live, which was just to be happy and to feel freedom and to feel abundant and know that I'm abundant. When I first kind of started on that journey, I really thought there was going to be like an end point where I was like, oh, one day I'm going to wake up and I'm done. Like, that's it. I'm done. I'm healed. I'm perfect. I'm ascended. And I, I just eventually I kind of realized like, oh my gosh, this is going to be a matter of showing up for myself every single day and committing to feeling as good as I can and supporting myself in that, and also allowing myself to just be where I am as well. And, you know, I think there's sometimes this misconception that, that we hit this place of just like ultimate arrival and being healed, and we don't. And at the same time, I think that's really beautiful because it means that we get to keep learning
Hmm.
and we get to keep growing and we get to keep releasing and we get to keep expanding. And I wrote that book, and like the next day, like I had like another big life lesson come up and I was like, "Oh my god, amazing, book 2." Like
That's a good way of putting it, right? What Well,
Yeah.
it's actually how you do put it. I mean, you talk about as you've learned on your healing journey, and I can say the same with my life.
Right.
The most powerful, the things that become missions and purposes and something that we are passionate about usually comes out of a very significant experience. And
Yeah.
often those experiences are painful or traumatic. Um, and that becomes part of the path and the
Yeah.
work. And so there you are. You're like, oh, that sucks. How can I use it?
Yeah. Yeah, but but if it hadn't been for finding a spiritual practice for myself, I don't know if I would be here at this place in my life,
Hmm.
you
Hmm.
know? Um, for me, my spiritual practice is just, it varies. I don't have like a set, like, oh, I do this every single day. My spiritual practice is more so just checking in with how I'm feeling. What do I, you know, what do I want to release today? What do I want to look forward to? Sometimes I meditate, sometimes it's yoga. Sometimes it's, blasting Cher in the car and, singing going down the highway. Um, but for me, that belief in something greater than myself, I think is really what has saved me and what has helped me continue to grow.
Hmm.
And again, whether that's God, creator, the universe, nature, whatever it is, just that it also has helped me feel less alone. Because, like I said, loneliness was something I felt for a long time.
Hmm. Hmm. And we know that's why, for all the reasons you said, a lot of people seek religion, right? And there's
Yeah.
just so many ways of defining what religion and spiritual practice is, and where
Yeah.
one starts and where one stops. I think I'm really glad you brought up your practice, and um, because I think a lot of times people feel like, oh wait, I have to have. Well, I know I felt I think I put off
Mhm.
meditating for a decade
Yeah.
when our kids were younger and growing up. I'm like, I need to have an hour every day where I sit like these people and I have
Yep.
this silence and I have this like this whole thing needs to happen.
Yep.
And I like lost a decade of what I've learned was meditation that you can do in all of these different ways in any way that works for you, which means checking in as you're talking about, right? Checking in with yourself,
Yep.
allowing yourself quiet, right?
Yeah.
Turning everything off and just having some intentional time and space, and it's not quantity.
No, it's just consistency. It's just
Mm,
that consistency. I mean, I'm a Virgo. I love having a good tool in my tool belt. I did, before I wrote this book, I did The Artist's Way. And if someone's listening, they're not familiar. The Artist's Way is this really great 12-week, do it on your own kind of this amazing, um, book where you just kind of dive into just who you are and What are you holding on to? What do you need to release? How do you want to create? And how do you connect with your own inner creator? But one of the tools in there is the morning pages. And it's you take 3 pages of paper and you just brain dump every single morning, 3 pages. Doesn't matter what you write. It can, some mornings I was just writing, like, I don't even know why I'm doing this. This is stupid, but you just kind of get everything out of your head onto this page. And that's something I do stick with pretty regularly just because I think for me, it helps me kind of figure out what's rattling around in there. Um, but I'm like you, when I first kind of dove in, I was like, oh, I gotta meditate every day.
Hmm.
And then I became like obsessive about meditating. And I just, I think meditating is great. I do it still to this day, but I don't think that's the only way. I think it's a way, it's a tool.
Hmm. I actually get, it took me a long time to acknowledge this. And I do meditate regularly.
Mhm.
And I run regularly. I've been running a long longer than
Mm,
I've been meditating. I get
yeah.
my the majority of my downloads come when I'm running.
Yes. Same for me with weightlifting.
Hmm.
I've been lifting weights for a while, and, like, I'm at the gym, and I have to have my notes app on my phone open when I'm at the gym because I get these really great ideas. So I'm with you on that.
Hmm.
Why did you start running? I'm fascinated by people who run because I don't.
Yeah.
So why
Well, it's interesting. So, I mean, my ultimate sport ended up being tennis growing up, and so
Okay,
I started running to be in shape for for fitness for tennis.
okay,
Um, but then after that ended, I said I need something to stay in shape, so I started to run for that. But what I quickly realized, I didn't like running when I thought about it for I'm running to stay in physical shape.
right.
What happened was I was and I have since like I've run for my mental and my health. Like
Yeah,
it's where it's like everything. It's like my time, my space.
mhm,
Ideally, it's in nature, and it's where I just have that time. So I don't think about it like I do. I mean, yes, it's for physical health, especially as I'm getting older. But
sure.
it really is like my place for well being. Like I need that for my well-being at this time since my body can still do it most of the time.
Do you have any other, like, non-negotiables, like, things that you have to do to keep yourself, like,
Hmm,
feeling well?
that's a great question. So definitely that's a non-negotiable.
Yeah.
Um, what has become as I've gotten older is I have pushed my work start day later so I can have my morning routine, which is something when, I was
Oh,
grinding and my kids were younger and it was like, get everyone out the door. I wake up like you were writing your book early in the morning. I was writing my books and my reports early in the morning. I was
mhm,
just grinding. And then finally reached this point that I had my psychologist had said when I was like totally overwhelmed, he's like, yeah, if you don't schedule lunch and you don't schedule your runs in your schedule, just like your clients, it's not going to happen.
yeah,
And so that is another non-negotiable for me. I mean, I have to pivot occasionally when life happens, but it's like I have to have my morning routine, which does include meditation. It includes sitting. It includes having my tea. It includes like sitting and thinking and looking out. Like so, yeah. Like they have
yeah,
become essential to what I find to be my well-being.
I'm with you, and I
Yeah.
think that's kind of, like, for me, what makes a spiritual practice or that's been helpful for me is, like, I travel a lot right now, and so I don't always have all the things that I like available.
Mhm.
But I'm with you. I have those non-negotiable things that I have to commit to myself, like, I have to do this, I need to do these things because it's how I feel the most connected to my work, it's how I feel the most connected to my life, and I'm with you. Even if I can't spend as much time as I want to, I still have those things, so it's really cool to hear you say that.
Well, thank you for asking. I
Yeah,
appreciate that. Actually, all those questions, it helps one reflect on one's own life, stuff that you just do. Um, I you talk about in terms of being connected to spirit,
yeah,
that this is something that everyone has. And I
yeah,
know, this is when people were like, really? Like everyone, like, there are famous mediums, right? There are famous psychics, and there are lots of people who aren't famous who do have these abilities. and it's clear, generally without the fraudulent stuff, which we know exists, that you're like, so someone's like, no, I don't get messages like that.
Mhm.
I can't do that. But that's not true when you talk about serendipity and we talk about there are no coincidences. And I'm talking about downloads and intuition. So say a little bit about how you see this working and how everyone has ability to tap into something beyond
Yeah.
that just that brain thought.
One of my most favorite examples of this. Are you ready?
Yes.
Have you ever now you'll probably get this because, you're tapped in yourself, but if someone's listening, that maybe feels like, "Okay, I don't get this, I don't do this." So, 2 things. 1, everyone can sing. Not everyone needs to go do it professionally, and some people can just sing for their own enjoyment, right? So, just because somebody has this connection or can connect, I think we all have it for ourselves. I think to do it for the public is a calling. Much like there's a lot of people who can also, like, technically we can all play sports. Not
Yeah.
all of us need to go join the NFL.
Mhm.
So that's the first thing. The second thing is, when we talk about this work, really what's happening is we're just tuning our dial and we're tapping into a consciousness or a stream of energy, right? That's all that's happening. Have you ever thought of something, like an idea for something, an invention or a design or something that you just kind of thought of, it came out of nowhere, and then you're watching TV and you see the thing that you were thinking of? You're like, "I just thought about that." I love that example because you're nodding your head yes, which I think is
Yes.
really awesome,
Yes.
right? Because I think a lot of people have done it where we're tapping into that field in some way.
Mhm.
And that's all it is. And for me, God, the definition that I like for God, comes from the artist Way, which I mentioned earlier, and I have no affiliation with them, but is good orderly direction.
God, good
Yeah.
orderly direction. I had not heard that.
And so for me, that connection is just where am I intentionally flowing my energy?
Hmm.
And what am I allowing to flow through me? And so when we're kind of intentional, so mediumship, psychics, we're just intentionally focusing our energy.
Mhm.
That's it. People who they're having the dreams of the loved ones, or maybe they see the symbol, or maybe they're thinking of someone and that person calls them. It's still very, like, tapped in and connected. It's just not really directed anywhere, so you're just picking up things,
Mhm.
right? You're just kinda the tuner isn't really focused in one place. It's kinda. So that's the way I kind of like to share that we all have that ability. Again, now just because you think of your sister and then she calls you, doesn't mean you need to go out and give readings, right? Because that's working with
Right.
the public is very different.
Right.
But it does mean that we all have this ability to connect with energy that's outside of ourselves.
But that is an example for everyone, right? Just I want to confirm this when
Yeah.
because this happens to me a lot, whether it's clients that I haven't seen in a long time
Yep.
or a friend that I have not seen in a long time, and all of a sudden, so what I learned is I th- somehow they come into my consciousness, and
Yep.
within 2 days they reach out.
Yes.
Like, so
Yeah.
that this is kind of what we're talking about, is like there is this energy transfer, this frequency that we
Yeah.
can pick up on. And a lot of times people talk about this, as you write, as coincidence. That's just a coincidence. And you like to talk about them, and this has come up on the show a lot, the idea of a synchronicity.
Yeah.
It's not a coincidence, it's a synchronicity. So say a little bit about that.
So for me, this is a very intentional universe. And the universe that we live in, everything is done with intention. There's clear purpose for everything. And so, I don't believe in coincidences. I believe that everything is lining up exactly as it needs to. And if, using the example of just thinking of someone and they call you, I think that also speaks to an even greater point is that we're all connected,
Yeah.
right? And we know this now. Like quantum physics is proving this through quantum entanglement and there's other, this isn't just like woo-woo mystical stuff, right? Like science can prove a lot of this, and the stuff that it can't prove yet, it just needs to catch up to. That's
Hmm.
it.
Right.
And so with synchronicity, synchronicity can be like, I'm thinking of my sister and she calls synchronicity can be, I was thinking about looking for a new job and then all of a sudden a friend is telling me about a new job opportunity, or I'm thinking about taking a class, and what do you know? There's a poster for this class. For me, and this is really funny to people, but for me, like I love seeing angel numbers. If you don't know what an angel number is, it's the repeating numbers like the 444 or the 333. It doesn't have to be sequential. They can be, or it doesn't have to be the same number. It can be a certain set of numbers that you recognize. But I see them on license plates and I see them all of the time. And when I got home today, I was traveling in from Denver. I'm walking to my car in the airport and I see 6 license plates with angel numbers on them, and then I'm leaving, and my, parking amount I was a little mad at it first, but it was $111, 111, so I was like, "Oh,
Mm.
angel number, great, I'm not mad anymore." But, you know, I see those synchronicities and I love them because it's just for me, they're just a reminder of how connected everything is.
Mm.
And to me, that's what synchronicity is. It's just our reminder of how connected everything in this universe is.
And I mean, that is so important on a macro level and on a micro level, because as you've talked about your experience of loneliness,
Yeah.
and we know that even before COVID, we had a loneliness and have a
Mm.
loneliness epidemic, of people of all ages, particularly of people in the older ages, and how connection is so important for our individual and our collective survival,
Yeah.
is being connected to one another.
Yeah. And we're intrinsically connected. It's when we forget that we're connected.
Mm.
And in the work that I do, that's what grief is. Grief is just our human selves forgetting for a little bit of what our soul self or our energetic self knows to be true, which is that we're always connected and that there is no death. And
Hmm.
so when we feel those things, I think of it that way. It's like I just forgot for a little bit. And the universe shows up with a synchronicity always to
Hmm.
remind me
Hmm.
of that connection.
So this is a message for people to look up, like to be aware, even if you feel terrible and it's a hard day, it's hard to get out of bed, or you're really anxious. And it's like to look around, because there are lots of messages that are happening that are easily missed.
Yeah, or that we're closed off to. But I will say sometimes, honey, sometimes the universe will just, try to grab our attention to make sure that we're paying attention. I had this client the other day. It was so funny. Her dad had departed and I was like, "Your dad keeps showing me these deer." And she was like, "I don't really know. I mean, I did have a weird experience with a deer." And I was like, "Well, tell me about it." She was like, "Well, we had these deer in the yard." And I was in the car and I was thinking about my dad. I was talking to him, from where he is in non-physical. And she goes, and then I had the car window down and I looked up and then this deer started poking its head in the car window. So I think, the universe, I think sometimes can be subtle. The universe can also be really loud too,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know?
yeah. Healing.
Yeah.
This work, like it's been multifaceted for you, because in this work you heal, you help people heal, and this work has also been healing for you.
Yeah. I don't heal anybody. People heal themselves.
You're a facilitator.
I'm just holding that space,
Yes. Yeah.
but it has helped me in my own healing.
Hmm.
For me, being able to I call what I do an ability, but what comes from it is a gift. And that's that, for me it's been being able to be a little bit kinder to myself, to forgive myself. A lot of my work has been around just forgiving
Hmm.
myself.
Hmm.
But also just that it's also kind of a reminder of like the work is never truly done and that's okay.
Hmm.
And to enjoy the journey just a little bit more.
Mhm.
I do believe that our souls are infinite, but the time that we get here is so finite. And, I think sometimes it might be corny to say, but every single day that we wake up, we get a choice of how we spend our time. And
Yeah,
if there's something,
not corny at all. No.
no, and like there was just so many years, where I held on to anger. I held on to anger for my parents for 20 years.
Mhm.
And I feel so blessed that they're still here and in this physical reality, and I get to see them and spend time with them. But I think back and I'm like, "Oh, I held on to that for 20 years." And I don't regret that time. I don't shame myself or judge myself for that. But, you know, I realized through that experience of finding that forgiveness for them, I also had to forgive myself for hanging on to that for so long.
Mhm. Mhm.
And then it kind of opened up this door for, well, what else can I forgive? Like, if I can forgive that, like, what else in my life might I be hanging on to that maybe I can just forgive and allow myself to release the burden of carrying that? One of the biggest messages I get from loved ones that communicate to their loved ones that are here in the physical world, they'll let me know of the burdens and the guilt that their loved ones are carrying still here in the physical world. And a message that comes through all of the time: you do not have to die, quote unquote, to feel freedom from that burden. You can feel the freedom in it right here, right now.
Mhm. Mm. Yeah, we don't wanna have to die to feel that.
No, we
Um,
don't want to. I mean, you know, I think there's relief in knowing we don't take that with us.
right.
But also, like, I want to enjoy my life while I'm here living it too.
Yeah. Yeah. Something we talk a lot about on this show, and a cornerstone of it is purpose, and um, trying to find it and then live in it. And something that has come up more recently on the show is not even big P purpose, little P purpose, like everyday purpose. Like we don't have to find like I'm going to cure this, right? Like purpose in your day, the little
Mhm.
things that fill you up, that fill other people up. And you always wanted to help people.
Yeah.
And by following this path, at times very scary. What will people think? What will people think of me? What will people going to do? Um, you are living that. You're helping people.
Thanks. And it is a daily thing sometimes of, of reminding myself to try to not care what other people think so much. The internet is a beautiful place, and it can also be a really tough place,
Mhm.
especially with this work. I think, because it is a big claim to say, "Oh, I talked to the departed." And
Mhm.
what's funny is like I've had my brain scan, I've had EEGs done on my brain while I've given readings. I just found out actually yesterday that I was certified by the Forever Family Foundation as one of their certified mediums, which they put you through rigorous testing, and you have to score very high in accuracy with specific evidential messages from the departed. Um,
Congratulations.
and so, but there's still, you know, folks who are sometimes, not so kind. But, I have to remind myself that this work is not about me. I get to have fun with it, I get to enjoy it, but it's not about me.
Mhm. Right.
Um, but, but at the end of the day too, this is also a job, as
Yeah.
funny as that is.
Mhm.
And so I still have to find purpose in my life beyond this because,
Beyond the job, right?
yeah, beyond the job. And so even for me, I have a lot of clients who come to me, they're wanting to know their purpose, wanting to know what they're here to do. And I have that same journey that I go through.
Mhm. Yeah, that's a helpful perspective, right? So people who are thinking like, um, for those who are all in on this are like, God, that must be nice. That must be awesome that you just tap in and you can see people who are there and who are not there. And it's not so simple. It's not so
It's
simple.
it's wonderful and I love it, but no, it's not so simple.
Mhm.
I mean,
Yeah.
there's so many things that my nervous system goes through to do this work. And so I know this is my purpose and I'm meant to do it, but people also don't understand it does a lot to my nervous system.
Mhm. Yeah.
And, and I couldn't imagine doing anything else right now. But but also there's other things that, and also I think sometimes people think maybe I get like a cheat code for life, and I don't. I still have my own lessons.
Right.
I
Right.
still have my own things that come up. But, but I think that's what brings me back to my center, what brings me back to my place of feeling that connection is that, yes, this work is fun and there's a lot of glamorous aspects to it and there's some difficult aspects to it, is that I just get to, just be present and enjoy doing something
Yeah.
that's fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the things that you ask us to do in your book, the reader to do, is to think about the times that we might be getting messages or downloads or, to be aware, right? To be aware, to be open, like encouraging us all to tap in. And you
Yeah.
give ways to do that. And so I was reflecting,
Okay.
because I was into the book and knowing that we were going to have this conversation. And I remembered something from probably 2.5 years ago that I have never said, that I've never talked about publicly.
Oh,
And it
we get the
relates, it relates,
exclusive.
it relates to this. This is, yeah, exclusive right here. But it was my version of this thing that was different for me.
Okay.
And it's kind of funny. So there's this we're having sewer issues at our house, and I had remembered that in the back end of our property I had stumbled on, when we moved in like 13 years ago, a broken sewer line, that a riser. And it was just the back end of this property was all overgrown, and I didn't have time to deal with it. I was overwhelmed with everything else in the house, and so I kind of like put something over it and covered it up. And then over the years, more mulch would go over it when we'd get like
Mm,
trees cut down. And then we were having our niece's rehearsal dinner at our house. And so it
mhm,
was time to make the yard look better and like clean things up a bit. And since we're having sewer issues, I said, you know what? I'm finally old enough and wise enough. I have to find that sewer line riser, because it's going to make our sewer issues even worse with all the backups and everything. So,
mm,
like, I got plenty of time. I got months. So I go out and I start pulling away the mulch and I start digging and digging and digging. Nowhere. And now I'm sweating. It's been like hours. I can't find it. I'm like, okay, I'm going to go out another time. So I put it away for a couple of weeks. I go out again where I think it is, in the back corner of the yard. I dig, I dig, I dig. I rake, I rake, I rake. Nothing. I'm like, what is going on here? So now it's the third time. I've spent hours doing this, and I'm digging and da da da. I'm doing all this stuff. It's hot. I'm exhausted, I'm frustrated, and right in this back corner of the yard is this old rickety bench that we got in our wedding years ago, that's like, still, we don't want to get rid of it because it's sentimental.
uh-huh.
I remember my wife says to me intermittently, "Just ask your guides." So that like came to me, and I was so furious. I sat down on this bench and I yelled. I remember the hat I was wearing, everything. I yelled, "Guides, where is the sewer line?" I just like yelled it.
Yeah.
And I put my head back, and there was this stick that had been from gardening, been there for years, that I'm like, I should move that. So of course my head hit it. My eyes are closed, and because I was going within, I'm like, I'm exhausted. I just asked my guides, I'm going within.
Yeah.
So I pull the stick and I push it to the other side with my eyes closed, and I set it down.
Yeah.
And right when I set it down, I said to myself, oh my gosh, I bet the stick is pointing right at the sewer line. And right when I said that,
They
I heard a
will.
voice in my head that said, it's right there. And I literally smiled, because I knew I'm going to open my eyes and literally dig 1 inch in the space that I had not dug. And I took the shovel, I knocked it away, and there was the sewer line after
Yeah.
all of that. And I was like, oh my gosh, I think I just had one of those moments.
Yeah. And I love there's so much in there that is so beautiful that I think speaks in other ways too. So one, you asked, right? You asked the universe, you asked your guides, "Hey, help me," right? Which a lot of folks have a hard time asking for help in the physical world. So
Mhm,
they're certainly not going to have ask for help from things that they can't see, right?
mhm.
The other thing is that when you did ask, you were so tired and fed up, you just went into surrender, like
I did.
not
Yes.
willingly. You were
Yes.
just like,
I'm done. I'm
you're
done.
like, I'm done. I'm getting myself out of the way.
Yeah.
Even though that wasn't the intention, it was just, you were just so tired, you couldn't help it. Right. So now you're out of the way. Now the universe or your guides can come through and show you through using your body, giving you this nudge to move this thing, whatever it is, right? And I think that's what's so important about asking for help from the universe is that when we ask for help, we got to get the hell out of the way.
Mm,
And I think that's where a lot of folks sometimes get tripped up is that surrender piece,
yeah.
or even just the allowing something greater than themselves to come through and do the work.
Mhm.
I I was mentioning the Forever Family certification that I just went through, and it's just fresh in my mind. So it's a very extensive testing process, and I'm a nervous test taker. I have ADHD, if any of you have picked up on that by now, and unmedicated, and other things, and so test taking for me feels there's a lot of pressure with it, and I'm going through it, and I'm getting ready to start, and then I had to remind myself of like, oh wait, I don't have to do this. I can just move out of the way and let the universe handle it.
Hmm.
And even for me, who's been doing this professionally for 5 years, I still have to remind myself to get out of the way.
Yeah.
And so I think for anybody who's like listening to this conversation and thinking like, how could I do this? Something that has been so helpful for me in surrender, if I'm feeling frustrated, if I'm feeling angry, if I'm feeling whatever, and I need to get me out of the way, I'll say, universe, guides, God, I'm feeling angry, but I'm willing not to.
Mm.
And like you in your story, in that
Mhm.
moment,
Mhm.
you were frustrated, you were tired, so therefore you were willing to not be frustrated, you were willing to feel tired in that moment, right?
Mhm.
But I think that's a very practical way that we can kind of start this journey. We have to ask for help, but then we have to get out of the way.
Yes. And you point out, I'm glad you brought up surrender because you
Yeah,
point out how surrender is not giving up.
never.
It's different. But sometimes it's taken as that. Okay, I surrender, I give, I'm
Yeah,
done. Which I know I said that. I was more like, I'm exhausted. And I was
yeah,
probably close to being done and giving up, to be honest.
yeah,
But there is a different feeling of just sitting back versus truly checking out.
yeah, and abandoning hope.
Yeah, abandoning hope. Right.
Yeah. Surrender doesn't mean we've abandoned hope. Surrender can sometimes just be, I'm gonna take a nap. You know?
Yeah.
Surrender for me, listen, then the definition for surrender for me has changed so much over the years. And I think it's one of those beautiful words that like I still am learning that lesson of surrender. For me right now, surrender means I'm going to stop offering the energy that I'm offering that's getting in the way.
Hmm.
I'm gonna be willing to just offer something else, which just might be just pulling back. It might be telling the universe, "Hey, you take over. I'm done here. It's your job now."
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
surrender for me right now just means I'm going to offer something else or pull back what I'm offering that's not helping.
I like that. And you talk about towards the end of the book about this isn't about becoming like these giant crazy hairy manifestations or these different like huge it's like these small steps, just like you're saying, just a
Yeah.
slight difference in thinking about something, believing something, being open to a possibility.
Just being open, that's all we need. We just need one of the things that I love so much about especially the live shows and when I have people that come up and they're like, I didn't believe in anything, but now I'm curious. I think that's huge. That can be
Hmm.
huge. Sometimes we think, the manifestation or receiving the manifestation or manifesting in general is like, I want to get the stuff. I want the house. I want the car. I want the big pile of money. And those things are great. Like, I'm here for the full human experience. So, like, I'll take them. But also, it can simply just be, you know what? If I'm in distress and I want to feel peace, like, I think that's a beautiful manifestation.
Hmm.
But
Yes.
we're always manifesting, though. We're always manifesting. We're always creating. It's really just a matter of what space am I creating from? Am I creating from a space that feels hopeful or that that is from a place of more conscious creation, or am I creating from some old subconscious belief that's no longer serving me? And I
Hmm.
think when we introduce God or that good orderly direction, we can begin to manifest things for ourselves that feel a little bit better.
And as you end in the book about how it's really about believing as if something believing as if something is there from a vibrational perspective before it's
Yeah.
there, and not only in your life but so many of your clients' lives and the messages they've got.
Yeah.
It's like, so say a little bit as we wind down here, because
Mhm.
this is so important for people in all different scenarios and situations in
Mhm.
life, how we can start to think and feel differently about a reality that we want for ourselves before it actually happens, which helps with the creation of it.
Yeah. So, I love this question. So, everything is vibration or thought before it exists. You were a thought before you existed. I was a thought. Cell phones were a thought before they existed. Cars were everything was a thought before it existed, which is a vibration, right? But to take that even further, let's say somebody is in a situation that doesn't feel ideal or they're feeling hopeless, whatever it is. Don't have to know exactly what life looks like from the the ideal place or the ideal point that you're in, but all you have to know is I don't feel so great. I want to be happy. I know I can be happy or joyful or peaceful. And then allowing that to kind of begin to form something else. When I got sober, I remember sitting on the floor of my apartment and I made a list of all the things I wanted in my life. And I didn't know what I wanted, but I knew I wanted to be happy. I knew I wanted to help people. And I knew I wanted to feel purposeful every single day. And I think if you can just start there, I want to be happy. I want to feel peace. It's a
Hmm.
beautiful place to start.
Yes.
And then be open to how the universe brings that to you.
Yes. Be opened. Be open.
Yes.
And for all of us not to think as endings, and think of them as beginnings of new things, and try to see and feel and be aware of the possibilities that lie for all of us on this human life path that we are on.
Yes.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Travis, so glad to have this conversation with you. Thank you.
You too. Thank you so much for having me. I'm a big fan of your work and thank you for all of the light that you're bringing to the world and for helping people to just find greater alignment with who they truly are. Your work is so valuable.
Thank you very much. Um, Tell everyone the book, your shows, your one-to-ones, how to find it all.
It's the easiest way to find me is on my website, travisholp.com. You can also find me on social media, Instagram and TikTok at Travis Warrior Unicorn.
Travis Warrior Unicorn behind your head. It does say Warrior Unicorn
It
in bright
does.
lights. There it is for those of you
Does.
watching, the Warrior Unicorn.
Yep.
Best of luck to you with everything.
Same to you, friend. Thank you.
Travis and his gifts and insights expand the way we see things and open up possibilities for our life and beyond. Here are 5 key takeaways from this conversation. Number 1, we are energy, always connected. Travis reminds us that energy doesn't disappear, it shifts. Death, as he says, is just a doorway to more life. Number 2, healing begins with surrender. Letting go isn't giving up, it's making space for clarity, guidance, and peace to flow through us. Number 3, everyone is intuitive. We all have downloads through intuition, synchronicity, and those moments that feel like more than coincidence. Be open and aware. Number 4, grief and love coexist. Grief isn't just pain, it's proof of how deeply we've loved. Recognizing that helps us stay connected to those we've lost. And number 5, ask for help and get out of the way. Whether it's the universe, your guides, or your higher self, sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is surrender control and allow support to come through. Lots for us to think about, for us to consider, and for us to expand our possibilities, our awareness, and our understanding. Thank you for being a part of this amazing community, for sharing this episode with those that you think would benefit, for your 5-star reviews, and for subscribing. Remember, we have a new free growth path quiz to help you on your growth journey. It's quick, it's easy, and you will find out your growth type, your strengths, your challenges, your growth edge, and several resources to help you along the way. Just go to www.drdanpeters.com/quiz. We have this moment, this day, and this life. Let's make it a great one. This has been a Peters and Rossi production. Make It a Great One with Dr. Dan is produced by Laura Rossi. Our engineer is Phil Rossi. Theme music is Uplifting Folk by Awesome Music. Artwork by Kelly Dwyer. Follow us on social media at Dr. Dan Peters. For more information, visit drdanpeters.com.